Well, I want to start by thanking the chair for holding today's hearing, and the witnesses have already presented a incredibly strong case for how valuable the Department of Energy's 17 national laboratories are to our energy future and to our nation's economy. In New Mexico, we're proud to be home to two of DOE's largest national laboratories, Los Alamos and Sandia. Both labs play critical roles in both national security and development of advanced energy technologies. For a number of years now, I've worked here in Congress and with our two national labs in New Mexico to improve the process to transfer those innovative technologies from the labs into the private sector. Technology transfer and partnering with the private sector is a critical part of a laboratory's mission and key to increasing the economic impact of federal research dollars. Our national labs produce a steady stream of advanced technologies that we've heard about a little bit today that can yield big dividends in commercial markets. To improve the rate of transition of laboratory-developed energy technologies into commercial development, I believe we need to strengthen DOE's programs to promote stronger direct partnerships with that private sector. And to do that, today I am proud to say I'm introducing a bill with Senator Gardner, the Energy Technology Maturation Act, which authorizes a program at DOE to provide dedicated funding to help bridge the gap between lab research and development and a commercial product the private sector can produce and market. I'm also pleased to say that we have, in addition to Senator Gardner and I, Senators Bennett, Durbin, Manchin, and Harris are original co-sponsors on that bipartisan bill, and we're looking forward to hearing from Senator Franken why he's not on that list. Tech transfer is a major job creation opportunity that we can't afford to miss, even in Minnesota, and our bill will create an environment that strengthens our economy while
I've never been blindsided like
innovations. I want to thank all of you for joining us today, and I'm going to yield for a moment because I think my colleague from Minnesota is a little upset with me.
I've never been blindsided like that, Senator. I resent it. I'm joking. I don't.
Okay.
It looks good. I'll look
Right.
at the bill. If you guys are doing it, sounds good.
Great. So back to our witnesses. I want to thank our lab witnesses and just ask them your thoughts from the perspective of the labs. What is working in the world of tech transfer? What are you seeing that's enabling that to happen more effectively, and what isn't, and what can we do about it? So any of you that would share your thoughts on that, and we'll start with Dr. Kearns.
Yes, let me jump right in because this is an area, as I said, I'm pretty passionate about and excited to be able to answer the question or at least start the discussion. I think there are two things that I would cite as working well, and one is really thinking beyond transactional relationships with industry to really more strategic relationships with industry. We have, no offense to our panelist here, but we have recently struck a long-term agreement to provide science and technology and strategic planning support for Exelon, one of the larger utilities in the U.S., so we're pretty excited about that. It's fairly open. It's a cooperative research and development agreement, which allows us to have a great deal of flexibility and really allows us to pursue many different avenues of potential interest that Exelon may have in thinking about their own research and development activities. As has been commented on, they've turned the utilities today in a regulated environment have a great difficulty in conducting research and development activities. So they've turned to not only the Argonne National Laboratory, but they've turned to MIT and Northwestern with similar kind of arrangements really to pull the laboratories and those universities into their thinking in terms of what the future might look like and how they might best position themselves for the future and what new technologies they should explore. So that's one. A second is a new activity at Argonne we call Chain Reaction Innovations, which is sponsored by the DOE's Office of Advanced Manufacturing. It kind of turns things around in terms of how we do tech transfer and then actually invites innovators, entrepreneurs. They turned out to be fairly young and for most part to the laboratory to actually use our facilities and to work with our researchers side by side. It's done through a competitive process, and we are just launching the second cohort, if you will, where we can actually have young, fresh minds just out of college, or perhaps they've just finished their postdocs, really present their ideas. They're selected through a competitive process, as I said. We team them with researchers at the laboratory as well as a business mentor to really help create a winning environment for them so they can really be successful in terms of what they do. And it really spans the field of interest, the ones we have, all the way from basic fundamental science to new ideas in chemistry to all the way to looking at advances in nuclear energy technology. So it's really been well received in those regards. So those are two things that I would cite as that are working very well.
And since we gobbled up a little bit of your time, Senator Heinrich, if you'd like to ask a little bit more, you can. Feel free.
Actually, I would just, if either of our other witnesses from either NREL or West Virginia want to chime in, I'm more than...
Okay. Yes, thank you, Senator. At NREL, we think we need to be as innovative in reaching out to partners as we are in our research. And clearly, I think that true partnership's important. I like to tell my international colleagues in some of our collaborations that collaboration is much like American football, it's a contact sport. And access to the labs for small companies, there are many innovative mechanisms that have been developed over the years for that. I joined Los Alamos about the time in '93 that CRADAs started to become very important. I spent 17 years there. One of our Energy Frontier Research Centers is led by Los Alamos, but NREL is an active participant, and you may know that some of the quantum dot technologies developed there are actually in spin-off companies in Los Alamos County today. It's very clear that innovative mechanisms are important. We've developed some partnerships. One is with the Wells Fargo Foundation, where we have 20 startup companies that have access to national lab capabilities for testing, proof of concept, de-risking, and Wells Fargo has just elected, the foundation has just elected to go select another 30 companies to participate there. Very different mechanisms, and we have energy materials networks that were just set up that I talked about. One is Duramat. It focuses on materials for photovoltaic modules. It's led by NREL, but it has 3 other labs, Sandia, the Stanford Linear Accelerator, Lawrence Berkeley Lab. Each has a role in big data, materials reliability, materials modeling, but there's an industry board of active photovoltaic companies as well as along the supply chain that with companies that sit on that board, help guide the research, but it's a mechanism to actually provide ready, as needed, access to laboratory capabilities, and so they're there when they're needed.
Great. Thank you, Senator. I'm grateful to be a co-sponsor of the legislation which links the two together, meaning the kind of value stream that we need when it comes to those investments, getting them commercialized. So appreciate your leadership on it, Senator Heinrich.